Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As Daniel approached the bus stop, the anticipation built up like a storm in their heart. The moment the bus arrived, they took a deep breath, steeling themselves for this monumental step. With a slight hiss, the bus doors opened, and Daniel stepped inside, and Aaliyah waiting to blossom. Every movement was deliberate as they walked down the aisle. The gentle sway of the navy dress, the unfamiliar yet elegant glide of the ballet flats, each step a journey into the unknown. They could sense the curious glances, like whispers in the air, but kept their gaze lowered, seeking a sanctuary among the seats. A glimmer caught the eye of an elderly passenger. It was the pearl necklace, a glistening symbol of courage. "My, that's a beautiful piece," she remarked, her eyes shining with compassion. Daniel felt a smile bloom inwardly. Aaliyah was beginning to truly shine. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice catching slightly. She found a seat near the back of the bus and settled in for the 45-minute ride. As the bus lurched forward, Aaliyah's mind raced with thoughts and doubts. Was this the right decision? Would people accept her? But as the minutes ticked by, she found herself relaxing incrementally. A young woman across the aisle leaned over. "Excuse me, I hope you don't mind me asking, but where did you get that cardigan? It's beautiful." Aaliyah glanced down at the white cardigan she'd carefully chosen to complement her dress. "Oh, thank you. I found it at a little boutique downtown." The woman smiled. "It looks great on you. Really suits your coloring." As the conversation continued, Aaliyah felt a surge of confidence. The woman hadn't batted an eye, treating her like any other female passenger. It was a small interaction, but it meant the world to Aaliyah. The rest of the ride passed in a blur of nerves and excitement. When Aaliyah stepped off the bus at her stop, she felt lighter somehow. She'd done it. She'd taken the first step in her public transition, and the world hadn't ended. In fact, it felt like it was just beginning. Over the next few weeks, Aaliyah's Tuesday morning bus rides became a ritual. Each week, she'd carefully select an outfit, building her confidence along with her wardrobe. The kind, elderly woman, whose name she learned was Martha, always had a warm smile and a compliment ready. One Tuesday, Aaliyah boarded the bus wearing a flowing floral skirt and a crisp white blouse. Martha beamed at her. "You look lovely today, Aaliyah. That skirt is perfect for the warmer weather we're having." Aaliyah smiled back, settling into the seat next to Martha. "Thank you. I was a bit nervous about the pattern, but I'm glad I took the chance." Martha patted her hand. "Sometimes taking chances is the only way to truly find ourselves, dear." As the weeks passed, Aaliyah found herself looking forward to these Tuesday morning conversations. They were a bright spot in what could often be a challenging journey. One morning, as Aaliyah was adjusting her blonde hair in a compact mirror, a man in a business suit sat down next to her. She tensed slightly, unsure of what to expect. The man glanced at her, and then did a double take. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice low. "But I have to ask, where did you get your hair done? My wife has been looking for a new stylist, and your color is exactly what she's been wanting." Aaliyah blinked in surprise, then felt a smile spread across her face. "Oh, thank you. I go to Stella's on 4th Street. They do a wonderful job." The man nodded, jotting down the information in his phone. "Thanks so much. She'll be thrilled." As he turned back to his newspaper, Aaliyah caught Martha's eye across the aisle. The older woman gave her a wink and a thumbs up. These small interactions, filled with simple, everyday conversations, meant more to Aaliyah than she could express. Each one was a step further into the world as her true self, a confirmation that she belonged. One Tuesday morning, about 2 months into her new routine, Aaliyah boarded the bus wearing a smart navy blazer over a white blouse and tailored trousers. She'd have an important meeting at work later, and she wanted to project confidence. As she made her way down the aisle, she noticed a new face, a young woman who looked nervous and out of place. The woman was wearing an ill-fitting suit that seemed to swallow her small frame. Aaliyah hesitated for a moment, then sat down next to the woman. "First day at a new job?" she asked, gently. The woman jumped slightly, then nodded. "Is it that obvious?" Aaliyah smiled. "Only because I've been there. May I?" She gestured to the woman's collar, which was slightly askew. The woman nodded, and Aaliyah carefully straightened the collar. "There. Now you look ready to take on the world." "Thank you," the woman said, her voice filled with gratitude. "I'm Chloe. I'm starting at the law firm downtown and I'm terrified." "I'm Aaliyah," she replied. "And don't worry, you've got this. Would you like some company for the ride?" Chloe nodded eagerly, and they spent the rest of the journey chatting about work, life, and the challenges of finding the perfect work outfit. As they neared their stop, Chloe turned to Aaliyah. "Thank you so much for this. I was so nervous, but talking to you has really helped. Do you take this bus often?" Aaliyah nodded. "Every Tuesday. It's become a bit of a ritual for me." "Well, I'll be on this route every day," Chloe said. "I hope we run into each other again." As they parted ways at the bus stop, Aaliyah felt a warmth in her chest. She'd started these Tuesday trips as a way to build her own confidence, but now she found herself in a position to help someone else. The following Tuesday, Aaliyah boarded the bus in a soft pink sweater and gray slacks. She spotted Chloe immediately and sat down next to her with a smile. "How did the first week go?" she asked. Chloe's face lit up. "It was challenging, but good. I kept thinking about what you said about confidence, and it really helped." As they chatted, Aaliyah noticed Martha watching them with a knowing smile. When they reached their stop, Martha caught Aaliyah's eye. "It's good to see you making friends, dear," she said softly. "You've come so far." Aaliyah felt a lump in her throat. "Thank you, Martha, for everything." As the weeks turned into months, Aaliyah's Tuesday morning bus rides became the highlight of her week. She formed a close friendship with Chloe, sharing stories about work and life. Martha continued to be a source of warmth and wisdom, always ready with a kind word or a bit of advice. One Tuesday in early autumn, Aaliyah boarded the bus wearing a cozy sweater dress and boots. She'd been on hormone therapy for several months now, and the changes were becoming more noticeable. Her face had softened, her body's shape was changing, and she felt more comfortable in her skin than ever before. As she sat down next to Chloe, her friend gave her an appraising look. "There's something different about you today, Aaliyah. You're glowing." Aaliyah couldn't help but smile. "I feel different. Good different." Chloe squeezed her hand. "I'm so happy for you. You know, I've been meaning to tell you something. Seeing you every week, watching you become more and more yourself, it's been inspiring. You've helped me find the courage to be myself too." Aaliyah tilted her head, curious. "What do you mean?" Chloe took a deep breath. "I've realized that I'm not just nervous about work. I think I might be gay. And seeing you live your truth so openly has given me the courage to start exploring that part of myself." Aaliyah felt tears prick at her eyes. She pulled Chloe into a hug. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. "Thank you for trusting me with this." As they pulled apart, both women wiping at their eyes and laughing softly, Martha leaned over from her seat across the aisle. "You two are a sight for these old eyes," she said, her voice warm. "It does my heart good to see young people supporting each other like this." The three of them chatted for the rest of the ride, sharing stories and laughter. As they neared their stop, Martha turned to Aaliyah with a serious expression. "Aaliyah, dear, I want you to know something. When you first started riding this bus, I could see how nervous you were. But I've watched you blossom over these months, becoming more confident and more yourself with each passing week. You should be very proud of yourself." Aaliyah felt tears welling up again. "Thank you, Martha. Your kindness has meant more to me than you could ever know." As they stepped off the bus together, Aaliyah looked at these two women who had become such an important part of her journey. She thought back to that first terrifying Tuesday morning, how alone and scared she had felt. Now, she stood tall, confident in who she was and surrounded by friendship and support. The weeks continued to pass, and Aaliyah's life continued to evolve. Her transition progressed, both physically and emotionally. She found herself becoming more vocal at work, advocating for herself and others. Her relationships deepened, not just with Chloe and Martha, but with family and old friends who saw her living authentically and embraced her fully. One crisp Tuesday morning, Aaliyah boarded the bus wearing an elegant blue dress that complemented her blonde hair. She'd have an important presentation at work later, but for now, she was looking forward to her usual conversations with Chloe and Martha. As she made her way down the aisle, she noticed a young person who looked nervous and out of place, much like she had on her first day. Without hesitation, Aaliyah sat down next to them. "First time on this route?" she asked, gently. The person nodded, their eyes wide. "Is it that obvious?" Aaliyah smiled warmly. "Only because I've been there. I'm Aaliyah. Would you like some company for the ride?" As the person, whose name was Sam, began to relax and open up, Aaliyah caught Martha's eye across the aisle. The older woman gave her a proud smile and a nod. In that moment, Aaliyah realized how far she'd come. From the nervous person stepping onto the bus for the first time, to someone who could offer comfort and support to others. Her journey was far from over, but she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she had the strength to face them. As the bus rumbled through the city streets, Aaliyah listened to Sam's story, offering words of encouragement and support. She thought about the many Tuesday mornings that had led to this moment, each one a small step on her path to becoming truly herself. The bus ride that had once filled her with anxiety now felt like coming home. It was a weekly reminder of her journey, of the strength she'd found within herself, and of the community that had embraced her along the way. As they neared their stop, Aaliyah turned to Sam with a smile. "Same time next week?" she asked. Sam nodded eagerly, a look of relief on their face. "I'd like that," they said softly. Aaliyah stood, smoothing down her dress. She caught her reflection in the bus window and saw not just her outer appearance, but the confidence and joy that radiated from within. She was Aaliyah in every sense of the word, and she was exactly where she was meant to be. As she stepped off the bus, the sun warming her face, Aaliyah took a deep breath. Another Tuesday, another step forward. She straightened her shoulders and walked towards her future, grateful for the journey that had brought her here and excited for all that was yet to come. The weeks turned into months, and the months into seasons. Aaliyah's Tuesday morning bus rides remained a constant in her ever-changing life. Each week brought new conversations, new friendships, and new opportunities for growth. One particularly chilly Tuesday morning in late autumn, Aaliyah boarded the bus wearing a warm, cream-colored sweater dress and brown boots. Her blonde hair was pulled back into a sophisticated updo, and she carried herself with a confidence that seemed to radiate from within. As she made her way down the aisle, she noticed several familiar faces. Sam, who had become a regular on these Tuesday morning rides, Chloe, whose friendship had only grown stronger over time, and of course, Martha, whose kind eyes and warm smile never failed to brighten Aaliyah's day. Aaliyah settled into her usual seat next to Chloe, who was practically bouncing with excitement. "Aaliyah, you'll never guess what happened," Chloe exclaimed, her eyes shining. Aaliyah couldn't help but smile at her friend's enthusiasm. "What is it?" "I got promoted," Chloe said, her voice filled with pride. "Junior partner at the firm, and I also went on my first date with a woman last weekend." Aaliyah pulled Chloe into a tight hug. "Oh, Chloe, that's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. Tell me everything." As Chloe launched into the details of her date and her promotion, Aaliyah felt a warmth spread through her chest. She remembered the nervous young woman she'd met on the bus all those months ago and marveled at how far they'd both come. Martha leaned over from her seat across the aisle. "Congratulations, dear," she said to Chloe. "You two have come so far. It does my heart good to see." Sam, who was sitting nearby, chimed in. "You've both been such an inspiration. Seeing you live your truths so openly, it's given me the courage to start my own journey." Aaliyah felt tears prick at her eyes. She looked around at these people who had become her bus family, each on their own journey of self-discovery and growth. She thought about how much had changed since that first terrifying Tuesday morning when she'd stepped onto the bus as Aaliyah for the first time. Now, her transition was well underway. She'd been on hormone therapy for over a year, and the changes were significant. Her body had softened and curved, her face had become more feminine, and she felt more at home in her skin than she ever had before. But more than the physical changes, it was the internal transformation that amazed her. She'd found a confidence she never knew she possessed. At work, she'd become an advocate for diversity and inclusion, using her own experiences to help create a more welcoming environment for all employees. She'd repaired relationships with family members who had initially struggled with her transition, and she'd formed new, deeper friendships with those who accepted her for who she truly was. As the bus wound its way through the city streets, the conversation flowed easily between the group. They shared stories of triumphs and setbacks, offering support and encouragement to one another. Aaliyah found herself marveling at the unlikely community that had formed on this Tuesday morning bus route. When they neared their stop, Martha turned to Aaliyah with a serious expression. "Aaliyah, dear, I have something to tell you. I'm moving to be closer to my grandchildren. This will be my last Tuesday ride with you all." Aaliyah felt a pang in her chest. Martha had been there from the very beginning, offering kindness and support when Aaliyah needed it most. "Oh, Martha, we'll miss you so much." Martha reached out and squeezed Aaliyah's hand. "And I'll miss you, dear. But I want you to know how proud I am of you. Watching you grow and become more yourself with each passing week has been a privilege. You've touched more lives than you know." As they stood to exit the bus, Aaliyah pulled Martha into a tight hug. "Thank you," she whispered. "For everything," The group gathered on the sidewalk, reluctant to part ways. Finally, Martha spoke up. "Now don't you all be strangers. I expect updates, you hear?" They exchanged contact information, promising to keep in touch. As Martha turned to leave, she looked back at Aaliyah one last time. "Remember, dear, you are exactly who you're meant to be." Aaliyah watched Martha walk away, feeling a mix of sadness and profound gratitude. She turned to Chloe and Sam, who were looking at her with understanding in their eyes. "Well," she said, taking a deep breath, "I suppose this is the start of a new chapter for all of us." Chloe nodded. "But we'll face it together, right?" Sam chimed in. "Absolutely. Same time next Tuesday?" Aaliyah smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Wouldn't miss it for the world. As they parted ways, each heading to their respective jobs, Aaliyah felt a sense of anticipation for what the future might hold. She'd started this journey seeking acceptance and understanding, but she'd found so much more. She'd found a community, a support system, and most importantly, she'd found herself. The next Tuesday, Aaliyah boarded the bus with a mixture of emotions. She missed Martha's presence, but she also felt a sense of excitement for what this new chapter might bring. She was wearing a deep green wrap dress that brought out the gold tones in her blonde hair, and she moved with a grace and confidence that turned a few heads as she made her way down the aisle. She spotted Chloe and Sam, who had saved her usual seat. As she sat down, she noticed a new face, a middle-aged woman who looked a bit lost and overwhelmed. Without hesitation, Aaliyah turned to the woman with a warm smile. "First time on this route?" she asked, gently. The woman looked up, surprise and relief washing over her face. "Is it that obvious?" she asked with a nervous laugh. Aaliyah shook her head. "Not at all. I just remember how it feels to be new here. I'm Aaliyah. Would you like some company for the ride?" As the woman, whose name was Rebecca, began to relax and open up, Aaliyah caught Chloe and Sam's eyes. They were watching her with proud smiles, and she realized that she had naturally stepped into the role that Martha had once filled for her. The bus ride flew by in a flurry of conversation and laughter. Rebecca, it turned out, was starting a new job after years of being a stay-at-home mom. She was nervous about re-entering the workforce, and Aaliyah and her friends were more than happy to offer encouragement and advice. As they neared their stop, Rebecca turned to Aaliyah with gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you so much for this. I was so nervous this morning, but talking to you all has really helped. Do you take this bus often?" Aaliyah nodded. "Every Tuesday. It's become a bit of a tradition for us." "Well," Rebecca said with a smile, "I'll be on this route every day. I hope we run into each other again." As they stepped off the bus together, Aaliyah felt a familiar warmth in her chest. She thought back to her first Tuesday ride, how scared and alone she had felt. Now she stood tall, surrounded by friends, offering to others the same kindness and support that had been given to her. In that moment, Aaliyah realized that her journey had come full circle. She had started these Tuesday trips as a way to build her own confidence, but now she found herself in a position to help others find theirs. She had become the person she needed when she first started her transition. As they parted ways on the sidewalk, each heading to their respective jobs, Aaliyah felt a renewed sense of purpose. She'd discovered that living authentically wasn't just about being true to herself, it was also about creating a space where others felt safe to do the same. The Tuesday morning bus rides continued to be a highlight of Aaliyah's week. Each ride brought new conversations, new friendships, and new opportunities for growth. She watched as Sam gained confidence in their own journey, as Chloe flourished in both her career and her personal life, and as Rebecca found her footing in the working world once again. And through it all, Aaliyah continued to grow and evolve. Her transition progressed, both physically and emotionally. She became more comfortable in her skin with each passing day, and her confidence radiated outward, touching everyone around her. One Tuesday morning, as the bus wound its way through the city streets, Aaliyah found herself lost in thought. She reflected on the long journey that had brought her to this point, the fears she'd overcome, the challenges she'd faced, and the incredible people she'd met along the way. She thought about Daniel, the person she used to be, and felt a deep sense of gratitude for the courage it took to become Aaliyah. She wasn't just living as her true self now. She was thriving. As the bus neared their usual stop, Aaliyah looked around at the little community that had formed in this unlikely place. Chloe, Sam, Rebecca, and several others who had joined their Tuesday morning group over time. Each of them had their own story, their own journey, but they had found connection and support in one another. Aaliyah stood, smoothing down her dress and running a hand through her blonde hair. She caught her reflection in the bus window and saw not just her outer appearance, but the joy and confidence that radiated from within. She was Aaliyah, in every sense of the word, and she was exactly where she was meant to be. As she stepped off the bus into the bright morning sunlight, Aaliyah took a deep breath. Another Tuesday, another step forward. She straightened her shoulders and walked towards her future, grateful for the journey that had brought her here and excited for all that was yet to come. The bus pulled away, continuing its route through the city, and Aaliyah knew that next Tuesday she'd be there again, ready to offer a kind word, a listening ear, or a warm smile to whoever might need it. Because that's what this journey had taught her, that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply be there for one another, creating a space where everyone feels free to be their truest selves. As Aaliyah walked towards her office building, she couldn't help but smile. She thought about how far she'd come since that first nervous Tuesday morning when she'd stepped onto the bus as Aaliyah for the first time. The journey hadn't always been easy, but it had been undeniably worth it.
Be sure to
She
check out
pushed
Patreon
open the
for
door
more.
to her office building.